You're listening to the Unlocking Africa podcast.
At the moment, I lead an organization called Echo Africa, really focused on verified data. And at the same time, because we're trying to change mindsets, I also lead Tech for Good Africa, helping youths to be able to see how to use technology to build civil solutions for green environment, for circular economy. We have to prove to our own institutions that African innovation can be financed in African currency. Financial returns may matter, but legacy is infrastructure that changes how a continent measures and manages its future.
Stay tuned as we bring you inspiring people who are unlocking Africa's economic potential. You're listening to the Unlocking Africa podcast with your host, Tessa Adamu.
Welcome to the Unlocking Africa podcast, where we explore the ideas, strategies, and innovations that are unlocking Africa's economic growth in the 21st century. Today, we have Samuel Efosa-Austin, the founder of Eco Africa, Tech for Good Africa, the African Technology Leadership Academy, and the Eco Fund. Samuel is pioneering a unique ecosystem that merges data, technology, leadership, and finance to reimagine how Africa measures, grows, and sustains its economies. Welcome to the podcast, Samuel. How are you?
I'm doing well. Hey, Tester. Thanks for having me. Really excited about this conversation today.
So am I. It's been a while since we last spoke, but I know a lot's happened from your perspective, so looking forward to the conversation.
Absolutely. It's good to be here with you, brother.
You too. As always, I like to dive straight in. So I was hoping you can just give us a brief introduction into who Samuel Efosa-Austin is.
Thank you so much, Tester. You already mentioned I'm the founder and director of 4 great companies that are forming a unique ecosystem. I've been back in Nigeria, Africa, and the continent now for the past 6-7 years. I'm sure we met each other at the United Kingdom. Background in mechanical engineering, went on to do economics. After that, did a few masters. I moved back to the continent and really tried to study politics, study economics, try to understand what's happening with data here on ground. At the moment, I lead an organization called Echo Africa. I've been doing this from the United Kingdom, but I brought it back home. Really focused on verified data, so identity, sustainability. And at the same time, because we're trying to change mindsets, I also lead Tech for Good Africa, helping youths to be able to see how to use technology to build civil solutions, create better solutions for green environment, for circular economy. At the same time, we didn't see many leaders coming out of technology. We just had a few. So we started an academy to get people to become leaders in technology, which is the African Technology Leadership Academy. And again, the passion still grew because there was no funding for the right technology that solves civil problems. So we started the Echo Fund to focus on funding data to power some of the startups which cannot afford to run their startup because many of the hosting services are either in AWS or Vercel, some of these international platforms that cost in pounds and dollars. And so we decided to launch the Echo Fund in Naira to fund some of these data infrastructures. So I'm sure we'll be talking about many of these things today, but I'm excited to be here. I have a passion for sustainability, for innovation, for technology, and most importantly, leadership to lead mindsets in a different way.
Thank you for that. You touched on the focus on verified data, and I know you've described Africa's data gap as one of the biggest barriers to economic growth. So what was it that first opened your eyes to the importance of verified data as a infrastructure?
So there's so much around verified data. A lot of people talk about Africa, but we don't even know the number of people down here. We talk about bring a solution here, but we don't even know where the problem is. My first encounter with the scale of Africa's data gap came while I kept working on civil technology. One of the ones that I worked on was I worked with the Oluwari to build an application for the kingdom. He's a local king in Warri Kingdom here, where the pollution has happened from Shell in the oil booming area of Nigeria. And building civic technology projects every time we try to design a solution, whether it was around the king itself or as a government, or we're trying to create some sort of financial inclusion tool with many of the wealthy HNIs in Nigeria with their microfinance bank, or we're trying to do something for climate, which, as I mentioned, that's where the pollution is. How do we put technology in there? The biggest stumbling block was not just talent or capital, but the absence of reliable, verified data that we can use to solve or shape technology in a unique way. So it became clear to me that without data as an infrastructure, you're essentially trying to build a skyscraper on sand. So verified data isn't just a nice to have thing where we're like, oh, we know what's in Africa. It has to become the foundation on which every modern economy runs. And I'm not just even saying this from Africa itself. Who verifies data? Is it the OECD? Is it Statistica? Who's the person saying these data is real? This is true? Because it just shapes behavioral way. So again, verified data is not just a nice to have. It has to become this foundation of our modern economy as we have it right now.
I guess it's safe to say that having verified data is one thing, but also moving or shifting the mindset from dependency to ownership of data is another thing. So what does that shift look like in practice for African entrepreneurs and investors in terms of changing the mindset from depending on other people's verified data to actually owning that verified data?
The shift is something that we should be talking about. It should be talked everywhere. A lot of people are talking about investments in Africa. A lot of people are talking about what's in Africa. But the mindset shift to us owning our data and putting it as the forefront of what we do, how we make changes, how we create innovation, how we sustain our nation should be what should be happening now. If we wanted to make that shift, one of the first things we need to start looking at is where's data stored? Where do we put data? Is the data here with us or is it somewhere else? I did this research to find out how many data centers exist in Africa in general. And it was shocking to discover that there was not a lot of data centers across the whole continent as a continent. But the most interesting part about figuring out that these data centers were not a lot of them was that the data centers that even existed here were housing data that were not even our data. For example, in Nigeria, you have Rack Center. And I was trying to figure out what was in Rack Center. There was a few banks in the country that was on Rack Center, but most of the solutions that were put on the data center and Rack Center are mostly solutions that are from maybe India or China. It wasn't really Nigerian data. Now, the second part of things is who's collecting the data, because to be able to verify data, the person collecting the data has to be verifiable or credible. For example, is it the government collecting that data? What's the purpose of the collecting of the data, which will be the final thing we go to. So I think to make this shift from just depending on other people's verified data, and again, we need to even know if their data is verified, we need to focus on where's our data stored, where's our data centers, how many data centers do we have that can capture the whole continent? And finally, what's the purpose of verifying that data? Again, the purpose part is one of the most important parts to me. Apart from, I'm very passionate about let's have more data center. I'm very passionate about let's know who's verifying the data. But the purpose of data is very important to me. One of the reasons why I started Echo was to focus on, okay, if we wanted to take a location, for example, Lagos, how do we just know what's in the environment of Lagos, the communities in Lagos, and organizations in Lagos? Use that as a metrics for collaboration. And so it becomes more purposeful. So if people were looking for data, they were like, was this data Echo verified? Because when you have people seeing the same thing purposefully, it drives people in a particular way. I would use an example like the name Jesus. The name Jesus is a name that all Christians know. Again, people would say, let's talk about God. But the name Jesus forms a way of data collection. It forms a way of structuring the way that Christianity runs and things like that. So purpose of the data is the most important part of the shift. Does this data want to solve environmental problem? Do we want to stop the looting of our natural resources? That's one way to look at data. Do we want to help our community have better access to finance and be able to solve local problems? That's a purpose for data. Do we want to know whether organizations are really solving problems or they need some sort of business development or a structural way of doing things? That's another purpose for data. And when we have that type of purposeful data, it then fosters who is verifying it and also where we store in it. So I think this can bring the shift from we looking externally to looking internally and being like, let's keep our data here.
Yeah. I guess people would argue that building this data infrastructure is not cheap. So what would be the funding requirements to start a project such as the one you've described in Nigeria?
So I went and did the research. I thought to myself, you know what? I need to build data centers. I need to build data infrastructure. And at the moment, 100 billion naira is about, should we say, $1 billion. I looked at a situation and thought to myself, let's build a prototype, right? I'm not saying this is how much we need for the whole verified data, but it's a start because there has to be a prototype of what I've just described about the shift. So definitely we still need more people to come into a conversation on what would it cost us to verify data across the whole of Nigeria. I'm still working on that because, again, there's no verified data to be able to create a better structure on a skyscraper of verified data infrastructure. There's no verified data, first of all. So let's do a prototype. Let's do 100 billion naira. Let's build a data center. And let's have that data center fully green. A green data center does two things. And again, it's a prototype. It allows us to offer international organizations a blended, so again, the data center working as a blended tariff. You're offering international organizations higher prices to access green data center to be able to foster their ESG report, which they're doing that as verified data there. My people are not already doing verified data on ESG. Yes, even though the Delta is very polluted, nobody's doing any ESG data collection there to verify how you can solve that problem there and attach it to your ESG, carbon credit, and so on and so forth. But if we built a data center there and had people use the data center from international organizations and use that as the ESG, we can also offer local startups and local businesses ability to put their data on our data center for a lesser price than it costs them now, which already incentivizes them to use data centers, do data analysis, do data science for their businesses. That's one part of it. So the second part of it is having data pods. So we came up with this idea of data pods where you cannot upload data to us except you're in that location. So you have to go to our data pods and upload the data of that location if you've collected data. One of the reasons we did this was we discovered anybody can upload anything to social media. Anybody can upload anything to any database anywhere. But becoming that person that verifies data has to come from that structure. So sticking to the question, we don't have the full amount of money that can cover such a project like Nigeria. But I started a mission of let's raise 100 billion naira that can fund us for a capacity data center to offer as a prototype for a data pod and a blended green data center that can be a prototype on how verified data can be incentivized, but also collected to foster growth or scalability in the data business across Nigeria and Africa.
So why did you choose to raise the capital in Naira when most African funds default to, say, dollar-denominated investments?
Because you can talk about sovereignty and then denominate your future in someone else's currency. By raising in Naira, we're anchoring our wealth locally. We're hedging against external shocks. For example, yesterday I saw that America's run out of money and they shut down their governments. Don't even know how that affects us to our Naira. I really can't get it. By raising a Naira, we just anchor the wealth locally and edge against any shock that comes externally. Because, for example, businesses like data center has been attached to people like Jeff Bezos, the Elon Musk, and those type of people. And we have to prove to our own institutions, whether it's pension funds, insurance companies, local investors, that African innovation can be financed in African currency. Now, when you hear the structure that I've just told you, the idea or the innovation of our data center, someone in the UK or the US or China has not even thought about doing data centers that way. They're talking about it, but nobody's done a full-on green data center. I've seen a few across the world anyway. But we have the ability that based on being African, we can power a green data center through solar energy, wind energy, even the water. There's so much that you can use to power one data center that could be fascinating as a innovation that could spread across different parts of the world. But not only that, even the data pod is something unique. So again, we can be talking about sovereignty. We can be saying that and then still funding our future with someone else's currency. So I just wanted to anchor the wealth locally. I didn't want to build anything that's anchored on any foreign currency where I'm thinking about a return on investments and I'm thinking how to help someone's currency because of I'm watching the American news to make sure I return the investments in an interesting way. Yeah, so I think we should do more investments in the local currency. I think I started to scream this here, and the next thing I saw was one of the banks decided to fund, I think it's Sycamore, with #1 billion again. So we're beginning to see that change happening. My mentor is one of the leaders of pension operators of Nigeria, and we talk about this all the time, and he just keeps telling me, Sam, you're onto something, stick with it. Yeah. Because we definitely have to fund with our local currency. Another thing that comes to my mind when I think about local currency, and I'll just put this here as well, is I wrote a concept recently, not released it out, on the financial integration of Africa. When we talk about the AfCFTA, we know that trade is happening across different countries. Also, we've seen the PAPs, which is a payment across borders. But if we're going to integrate our own currency, what would be trading with Kenya shillings with Naira look like? If we don't start funding our businesses with our local currency, how do we measure trading with those currency when we want to do that financial integration? Would we base our financial integration on the dollar to the pound, or would we create a structure based on the businesses and the values of how some businesses and the trades that happen in those countries and their currency relate with those businesses and those transactions in other countries in Africa? So it's very paramount that we start doing that now, so that integration. So if I wanted to integrate technology, for example, I can integrate it that, okay, Nigeria has this, again, which is how the dollar to every currency is working. If we wanted to do our local one for the African continent and probably come up with some sort of one currency that could foster our relationship with external continents, it's very important that we start doing that funding now. So that's another thought in my mind.
Fantastic. It makes sense to me. So if we keep to the theme of what you've just mentioned in terms of integration and redefining how we invest and transact amongst ourselves as Africans, I know the Eco platform aims to redefine economic value beyond GDP. So how does this framework actually work, and how do you see potentially governments adopting it? I guess that's two questions in one.
I like the government one. Me and them were really having this conversation from a very far place as I sit in the room with them, but I try to not make a lot of noise yet because the time will come, and the time is soon. But let me just talk more to the functionality of the Echo platform. So one of the things that we use to create economic value is the value of an individual to be able to have a job, and the value of the spending power of that person, individual in a local economy. And also, in relation to that, a business ability to hire that staff, have money for their business, pay their taxes, and a country thrives. I wouldn't go to the government side of things where they also do investment through insurance, pension, so on and so forth. I wouldn't touch theirs. I don't want to touch theirs yet. With the Echo platform, what we try to do, or what we're doing is, how do we measure a location from its real data and integrate an individual's contribution to that place, but also an organization's connection to those individuals. So again, normally it would be that the government was managing your contribution based on you having a job and spending that money, but also from your job, take taxes. But also the government manages an organization, hiring you, giving you a job, and also managing its own operations and taking its own operation to fund taxes that can do bigger things and also integrate. So Echo Platform does giving you this unique identity. So it gives you your Echo ID. And through your Echo ID, you build your Echo score. Now, most people would call that credit scoring. For a country like the United Kingdom, the US also, it would be credit scoring. And your credit scoring, again, as I mentioned, as an individual, comes from your spending and the ability to have the funding to spend, but also we can track that you have income. So in the middle of that, we give you credits to be able to afford things. Now, how many people in Africa has access to credits? Not a lot of them. So what we did on the Echo platform was come and build your Echo score from the good you're doing in Echo. So what are you doing in the environment, community, and organization of a location? So at the moment, people sign up on the Echo platform. They go to their activities. They say, okay, you can see the ECO formula there. And you can see the UN SDG goals there that are integrated into the ECO. And what you do is you can click on, I just did a project with this NGO to help end poverty. I just did a training, right? Normally, if you did those things, you post them on social media and would not do anything about it. Everybody will give you likes. You probably get 1,000 likes. Your following could increase, but your bank account didn't increase. Your scoring didn't increase in that location. So we allow them to upload their activities, write what it's about, and we give them points for that. Your points convert to the formula we have for the ECO for that location to allow you build your Echo score. Now, as you build your Echo score to a particular point, you then have access to our pool of microfinance bank. I mentioned earlier today that many of the HNIs and retirees have taken their money and just built many microfinance bank. To open a microfinance bank in Nigeria is 150 million for the license. So that's a lot of money that someone could have that a young person can access because they were able to showcase verified things that they're doing and build their credibility. But we are already collecting data of what they did in that location. We're also collecting data on what's happened in that location. So it's a win-win. And they're able to access these loans from this microfinance bank that understand that this unique alternative credit scoring can give them ways to give people funding. Now, the more you pay that money back as well with lower interest because it's now environmentally friendly. And at the same time, these organizations, this microfinance banking, put that as their CSR and ESG, again, on their papers. You're also building more of that Echo score, right? So your Echo score is showing you what you're doing in the environment, showing you what you're doing in the community and organization.
Yeah.
We don't stop there. Organizations, I remember I mentioned that they are also people contributing to the economy. They can pull you as a staff. They can pull you as an adoption. And those points that you have raised from doing those community environmental organization, even if it's a job you have, based on your job, you can say, I have a good job, which is one of the UN SDG goals, and we'll give you points for having a good job. And they can pull that and attach it now to their own organization profile and print out ESG reports that showcase how they're contributing to the environment, social governance of that location where you're in, whether it's they did some sort of charity thing. And we know that one of the big things that happened to Africa is a cut of the aid to, for example, USAID aid to Africa. This then shapes a new way of showcasing verified impact in locations. And in the long run, we believe that as ECHO starts to shape this across various cities, we start to change the narrative of how do you measure that location. And I'm sure the government will be having conversations with us and saying, can you show us the echo of this location to this one that we have of GDP, but also creating in ECHO. I told you we are very passionate about creating civic solutions. So we create solutions for kings and things like that. And we're creating alternative governments that can help government collect information through tech, but also match it to what they have on paper.
This is Verto Corner, your window into smarter cross-border business. Today, we're looking at how failed payments don't just cost money, they cost trust. Here's Megan Doherty, Director of Operations at Verto, on why removing friction matters. Over to you, Megan.
Hi, thanks so much for having me. I think companies can really lose sight sometimes that operations departments are a big part of the product and service you're selling to your customers. You can have the best FX rates in the world, but if you can't deliver the funds on time, no one's going to be using you. So failed payments comes in as a big cost to companies. Companies that use us depend on a reliant system to move their funds. They can't just pay for supplies and their products if there are payment issues. And that's when it has a direct impact on their business as well. If the client can't trust us, then their clients can't trust them, and they can't do their business to the highest standards they want as well. We definitely try to look at this much differently at Verto. Investing directly into our operations department can have a direct impact on your bottom line as a company by retaining clients and reducing churn, and of course, the direct cost of errors themselves. The key to growth is shifting your perspective. Operations isn't a cost to be minimized, but an investment to drive revenue. Reputational damage is another important area, which is really hard to quantify. Companies view themselves as global, but in the fintech industry, especially in certain smaller markets, as soon as word gets out that your company is unreliable, it's a very hard and costly road to repair that damage. I have some advice that we like to use at Verto, how we like to look at minimizing payment errors and investing in our operations. So to reduce errors, to be increasing retention. At Verto, we look at this in two parts. So one is prevention of the errors in the first place. This involves making the prepayment experience as strong as possible. You can use AI tools, platform algorithms to verify payment details, destination countries, certain regulations. This makes sure the payment has the best chance of arriving quickly without delays. And then there's the post-payment part. So a quick to resolve if there is any issues, which involves fast-acting back office teams, CMS tools to support quick communication, a strong support team that can be consistent with their communication to customers. So all of this investment in your operation should, one, reduce errors, but really the under bottom line is retain customers and your reputation.
Thank you for sharing that. You noted investing in ops. So what specific ops practices have you seen having the biggest impact on reducing friction?
Our AI tools are definitely the probably biggest investment you can make into your operations team. This allows us to work a lot more efficiency, create strong payments, details, making sure we're picking up any gaps or risks or issues at the beginning. So we know when we've sent that payment, it is going to get to the end destination. The payments industry can be quite complex to navigate, and we want to make sure that that investment goes well. You can also invest in people, and that's a really important part of it as well. Making sure you have the right staff, the right training, and that everyone understands the issue of clients' funds being delayed or trapped. So everyone's working on a level of urgency, which makes a really big difference within operations.
I guess the increased impact and reduction of friction is done to increase the customer journey. Can you share a real example where fixing a payment issue helped boost retention?
Yeah, absolutely. Our clients are from small companies in emerging markets to large companies. We obviously mainly focus on Africa and to help support businesses there. So we have clients that use Virto to, one example, a client of ours who uses Virto to facilitate payments for students applying for international schools and universities. They cover everything from admin to visa fees. They were finding it difficult to streamline their payment transfers and solving for the complexities of the cross-border payments. They've told us that Virto has been a game changer for them, for their institution. Our effective payment solution and exceptional support has not only streamlined their processes, but enhanced their own operational efficiency. So that's really great to hear that you're not just doing your part of your job by getting a payment from A to B for your clients, but you're actually improving their own operational resilience and efficiency. It's great to be able to contribute to companies like that.
How do enterprise clients differ in their expectations versus, say, smaller clients or customers such as SMEs?
I think all of our clients have high expectations, whether you're a small company paying for a product or supplies. It could be critical to your business that those funds are paid for through a cross-border payment very quickly and reliably to make sure you are growing. For an enterprise client, they probably have more of the luxury of the whole market is a lot more open to them. They can choose from competitors very easily, and they obviously expect a high level of service and resilience. They'll have thousands of underlining clients, theirs as well. So it's a trust knock-on effect. If we can't deliver for them, they can't deliver for their clients. So it's incredibly important we're getting that right, both with technology through our APIs or through our customer support, and they're getting the information they need for their clients as well.
Huge thanks to Megan for showing us why smooth payments equal stronger retention. For more customer success strategies and tools from Virto, check the show notes. Join us next week for another insight-packed episode of Virto Corner. And now back to our interview. Collecting data is one thing, but gaining other people's trust to collect and keep their data is another challenge. So how do you ensure trust in data systems, especially in environments where there has been a history of poor data reliability and governance?
This is one of the interesting questions of why we built Echo. Trust is built on verification. If I can verify, then I trust. It's also built on transparency and accountability. Our systems are designed with community validation. For example, I know, again, I've studied a lot, and I'm really looking forward to more research into behavioral economics, with big data and IoT. Because everybody has a cell phone in their hands now. And so because they have social media, the big data of the followers that you have on your social media helps you to behave differently on how you post. And again, that's just an example. So those three things I just mentioned was you're verified because of the large following you have. Then it makes you more transparent about what you're sharing. So I'm doing it more. And it then makes you accountable to those followers that you have. That's just an example of building a trust system through social media, which we have at the moment. Everybody trusts what they see on social media, but there's also talks about it's not helping mental health and so on and so forth. On the Echo platform, for example, we have what we call the PALS network. And so that's partners, ambassadors, and leaders. So on your profile, you can verify your pals. I can verify my partners that are working with me on doing something. I can verify leaders that I've put in as mentor in my profile. I can verify other people that are ambassadors to me. We're working together on a particular project. And with this, you're verifying those individuals as well for what they're doing. Because again, it's very community based. You're doing something for a community. We also anchored this on blockchain with the Echo ID, as we mentioned. The Echo ID has a hashing that allows that whatever you're doing, and even when you go to our data pod, you have to put in your Echo ID to upload data to us. We're creating a transparent, but because you're already verified through community validation, you're building this trust system. Moving on to open access to methodologies. If people can see the process, they can trust the outcome. And that's what we're trying to build here. I gave an example of a young person uploading what they're doing in the location, showcasing, getting points for doing that as an incentivification to them. And after a while, they have access to microfinance bank that could give them funding for a local place. So trust is built on verification, transparency, and accountability. Our systems are designed with community validation, blockchain anchoring, and open access to methodologies that can help you see the process. Then you can trust the outcome that will come out of this.
I guess it's safe to say in order to achieve this, we need to create a pipeline of technology professionals, IT professionals who can help manage this data, process this data, and also build the infrastructure, which is one of the reasons why you have developed the African Technology Leadership Academy. So what skills do you think are most urgently needed in Africa's digital economy to position us to be players in the IT space globally, and to also just be able to manage our own internal IT, data, technology infrastructure?
And I'm going to answer this question in a unique way. I just love the question. I've gotten it many times. I've spoken at many tech events, many tech gathering startups. I think I've done over 2,000 events since I've been back in Nigeria. It's unbelievable.
Wow.
I'm telling you, Tessa, I know you know me. When I was still in Manchester, I will be in all the events. You'll be like, this guy's here again. I'm always there to hear what they're saying and contribute my innovative thoughts on. We need to see differently. But I don't think that it's around, and that's why I said I'm going to answer this question differently. I don't think it's around what is the most needed skill for digital economy. When I think about technology, I think technology is a lifestyle. I don't think of my phone as a phone anymore. I think of my phone as my technology, because it does more than calling. Because when we first made phones, it was for calling, but now I can talk to my phone. Hey Siri, and it starts to tell me something. It starts to speak to me. Sure, I'm glad they didn't do that now. As I said, it's because it's right in front of me. I don't want us to look at it from the skill part of things. And I tell many African youths when they join our process, because it's a very unique process. You don't join the African Technology Leadership Academy if you have not gone through the Tech for Good Africa community. You have to go through Tech for Good Africa first before you can join African Technology Leadership Academy, because you have to have a mindset first. And the mindset is a formula we created because technology is integrated. So I told you now my phone normally used to be for call-in, which is sort of a media telecommunication sort of thing. You hear my voice, I hear your voice. It's media, it's going through a medium of telecommunication. But later, there was also design integrated to it with Apple phones. And then later on, there was more data integrated with apps that are on it, so your social media. And then later on, it was integrated with how much energy you're consuming on your phone. And it was now people could use their phone to do Udemy and education and things like that. So you see now there's an integration of technology that you can't stay in one side with a skill and not understand what the other side is doing, because then you miss the whole point of building the digital economy. So in Tech for Good Africa, before you go into African Technology Leadership Academy, we created this formula called E equals MD cube. I sat down and I said to myself, one of the climate issue we're talking about is energy. So how do we shape energy in a different way in this era of digitalization? I'm not sure Einstein knew that digitalization would be the way it is. I'm sure he just thought, let's just turn candles to lights, something like that. So E equals MD cube is E is energy or education. It's equal to, and we did that or so that you can choose if you want to focus on the educational part of learning more of this or become a lifelong learner, or you want to focus on the energy part of things, which would be just a financial part of things where you make more money. And again, unique training you go through. We're still running that program as Moments, a 6 weeks flagship program to just get integrated. The 6 weeks you go through this thematic areas of E equals MD cube. E's energy or education is equal to media, data, design, and digital. And so you go through 6 weeks of learning what is energy for technology, doing good. What is education, technology? What's media technology? What is data technology, design technology, and digital technology? Understanding all of this opens your mind to the fact that, oh my God, I'm a graphic designer, but there's what graphic designer integrates into energy in a unique way. If I'm putting too much words on it, it can make data centers run too strongly and heat up the planets, right? So it's a mindset. And what does that help us do in Africa? So we're not focusing on the skill per se. You can learn skills from anywhere. You can learn it from Udemy. You can learn it from YouTube and all of that kind of stuff. But do you understand the integration and the interconnectedness of this technology and its skills to build a nation? So you go through Tech for Good Africa, and when we see your contribution and work you've done, again, the process, we can then offer you the ability to become a leader in African Technology Leadership Academy. At the moment, we've only graduated 10 people from the African Technology Leadership Academy, just so you know how much we're trying to make it like a Harvard of technology leadership in Africa.
Fantastic. So you mentioned something quite key there in terms of you have to have the mindset. So how do you ensure the leadership development actually translates into tangible economic or social impact on the ground?
Thank you so much, Tessa. Good question. Remember, I told you from the beginning, and still saying this, we're building a unique ecosystem. So in every economy, and I'm sure anyone listening to this and even yourself knows that every economy has 11 sectors, and nothing more than 11 sectors, from customer goods, customer staples, manufacturing, so on and so forth. So when you've gone through these E equals MD cube, understand what it is, gone through our program on ESG in tech, strategic leadership forum. We do this through the whole year of a Tech for Good Africa year. You go through all these programs during the year. When you've gone through that, you would have a different feeling. You would have a different mindset. When you join the African Technology Leadership Academy, you then take that E equals MD cube and start to design it into the 11 sectors of a nation. So we take Nigeria, for example, and we look at the 11 sectors and we run you through the E equals MD cube of each of them. So, for example, consumer goods, which is your daily rice and beans, bread, milk. How can you integrate E equals MD cube into such businesses? Because if we can train you on that, we can send you out there to the SMEs and you can help SMEs know how to do digital marketing. You can help them know how to do media for their shop. You can help them know how to digitalize the payments in their rice and beans market. You can help them sell tomatoes more differently. Why? Because now you understand the E equals MD cube of that location. But then because you've gone through the African Technology Leadership Academy, you also understand the eco mindset. So E equals MD cube to that particular sector and how that sector now contributes to the environment, community, and organization of that location. You are now back to local again. With this, we've seen many people start to shape new things. And with our partnership with companies like Leap Africa, the Impact Investment Forum, now we're so excited about NIRIC, which is National Institute for Research and Innovation Committee. We're shaping ways that university can integrate this to help students come out more tech solid. That's the word I would use. I don't think I have another word for it. And we're seeing that converts to impact socially. Things are changing in research on how do we contribute to the social impact using technology? How do we contribute to environmental impact using technology? And even making better ways of finance. Because I'll give an example that has not been seen before. Because of such a concept, people are able to strategically find where they can provide solution to that they didn't see before. For example, a young person came on Tech for Good Africa, and we always have Strategy Saturday. And with Strategy Saturday, come and share any idea you have, and we'll form a strategy around it. No matter how stupid it is, no matter how lame it sounds, just come and share it with us. As long as it's using the technology, and the technology you're using doesn't have to be you built an app. And so this young man came with his friend and talked about he's from Benin, and him and his friend, every time they're walking down the streets, it's always just stinking. And they said the reason why is because people take their trash and just put it outside their house. They just throw it on the floor there, or they throw it into the gutter. And so they thought to themselves, well, we can change this through WhatsApp. So they went to each person's house on their streets and got their WhatsApp number and told them, we're adding you to a WhatsApp group. If your trash is ready, here's a bag. Just put it in. We'll come and pick it up when it's ready. Just put it on the group. My trash is ready to be picked up. And we'll pick it up and we'll take it to this place. The group will also have a scheduling so we can also collect it at a better time. And they started to do this. And then 1 month, they've collected so much trash. And people were joining this group that they needed to then build an app. They had to convert this now to offer jobs to more young people like themselves of collecting trash, but at the same time, solve this problem of just smelly streets and clogged gutters. But also they were making money because people would pay them for coming to pick this up. And it was little money, but it was something. When they've gone through Tech for Good Africa, they understood this concept of, okay, we've just built this as a medium. We're collecting data as well. But, this is how we can collect data better. This is how we can digitalize this better. But they were then able to find other people in the community to help them build this to a particular level, because when people hear about good things, they're ready to volunteer. It's the behavioral economics of a human being. And so we were volunteering and helping them build this. And they built it to a place where it's not a huge amount of money now, but they're making money. And I'm sure very soon people hear about them.
Yeah.
It's funny how they came on Strategy Saturday and they told us that they wanted to call it Uber Trash. And we said to them, no international name. We call this something Africa. Go find something from your local village and call this app the name of that. Yeah, so you see how that's converting to we're giving opportunities for civic technologies that could not be developed before being developed, and we're seeing the financial value, the impact that has on local places.
Thank you for sharing that great story, Samuel. So from all of these experiences, I guess, what lessons have you learned from building initiatives such as Tech for Good Africa that others working in Pan-African movements could potentially benefit from?
Resilience. I've learned resilience and focusing on where the problem is, but knowing that the problem cannot be solved with speed as Silicon Valley, but with a resilience on building patience with our people to help them understand the impact of what it is we're trying to offer them.
So if we move from what you've learned so far and look into the future, looking ahead, say 5 to 10 years from now, what would success for EcoFund, Eco Africa look like beyond just financial returns?
Success to me would be when verified data is as taken for granted as road or electricity in Africa. When local investors are backing digital infrastructure in local currency, when governments are using beyond GDP metrics to plan budgets. Financial returns may matter, but legacy is infrastructure that changes how a continent measures and manages its future. That would be success to me.
What advice would you give to African entrepreneurs and policymakers who want to, as we mentioned at the beginning of the conversation, own the rails, own the infrastructure of the continent's future economy?
Stop copying. Start contextualizing. Own the stack, currency, data, infrastructure, own all of them. Policymakers must legislate for local value capturing. Entrepreneurs must design for resilience. And I believe that together, we must create systems that reflect Africans' realities, not imported templates.
Quote of the week.
As people, we often have quotes, mantras, African proverbs, or affirmations that keep us going when times are good or when times are challenging. Do you have one that you can share with us today?
I have two. I'll give two.
Brilliant.
I'll give my personal one that I hold on in my heart a lot. And I'll give another one that I always tell everybody. I'll start with the one I tell everybody. If you can go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. But if you want to build forever, build on truth. For me, that truth is verified data. It is the foundation on which Africa's forever must be built. Now, I'll talk about my personal one. Let's do it. I always say, let's do it. And people would think, even in my social media, I'll put a hashtag, let's do it, and think I'm just saying that. But let's do it is leadership, economics, technology, sustainability, doing it through IT. And that's my acronym in my head every day. When I tell myself, let's do it, when I tell others, let's do it, I'm checking their leadership, their economics, their technology, and sustainability, and how they're doing that through IT. I hope this helps somebody out there.
Awesome. That brings us to the end of today's episode of the Unlocking Africa podcast. Thank you, Samuel, for sharing your insights on the future of data and, I guess, African economy. It's been an amazing, insightful conversation. I guess the conversation is also a reminder that ownership, trust, and innovation must be at the center of Africa's growth story. So thank you for your time today.
Thank you for having me, Tessa. God bless you.
Thank you to everyone who has listened and stayed tuned to the podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, share, or tell a friend about it. You can also rate, review us in Apple Podcasts or wherever you download your podcast. Thank you, and see you next week for the Unlocking Africa podcast.